Hello and welcome to this UK virtual school coaching tutorial on your rights as a UK citizen. Now, although these are specific to the UK, a lot of different places around the world have very similar rules and rights. So hopefully these apply to where you live as well. So what are rights? What do you think when someone says you have the right to blah, 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 blah? What do you think that means? A right is something that is given to you and entitles you to something. So, for example, your human rights. Your human rights protect your right to life. You have the right to live your life, to be alive. You have the right to healthcare to make sure that your life is as good as possible. You have the right to feel safe in your life. You have the right to go about your day and feel safe. You have the right to privacy and a family life, meaning you have the right to not tell the whole world what is going on with you. And you have your freedoms. For example, the freedom of religion, the freedom of political thought. All of these things come under human rights. So we also have citizen rights. So citizen rights include your rights as a person acting kind of within society. So for example, your rights as a consumer, your rights when you buy things. A consumer is someone who is purchasing an item or maybe a professional service. Maybe you're paying someone to do something for you. In this tutorial, we're going to look at your consumer rights. We're also going to look at a fair trial. So what happens in a fair trial and what your rights are if you are stopped by the police. So let's start by looking at your consumer rights. So your consumer rights are your rights if you have bought or in a shop or ordered something online and what to do if it goes wrong. And these are sometimes called your statutory rights. So for example, say you've ordered a new phone and it's arrived and the camera is missing. You have a right to obtain a refund because it is incomplete. It doesn't have everything that it was advertised to have. Maybe it's unusable. So maybe you've bought a new mug and your mug or cup has a hole in it, so it doesn't hold liquid anymore. You are entitled to a refund. Maybe if it's broken or damaged, the same thing applies. And if it's not as advertised, so say you decided to buy a rug and the rug turned up and it was very, very small and you thought it was advertised as being very, very big. Same thing. It is considered a faulty product. Another example of when your statutory rights might apply is if you get poor service, meaning you've asked someone to do something, you've paid someone to do something for you, and it hasn't worked out how you'd hoped. So for example, maybe you ordered a birthday cake and it came out with the person's name spelt wrong. Obviously, this is poor service. Maybe you went into the hairdresser asking for a trim and you came out with a blue mohawk. Also not great. Or maybe you went to the tailor and you got some trousers tailored and they made them too small. All of these are examples of poor service. You haven't actually purchased a physical thing, except for maybe in the case of the cake, but we're exchanging services for money and it hasn't worked out how it's advertised. If you experience poor service, The first thing that must occur is the person who provided that professional service must be allowed to correct the error before you demand a refund or you demand for your money back. So, for example, maybe in the example of the cake, if the cake came out with the name spelt wrong, the first thing that should happen is the baker should have the opportunity to correct the mistake, write the name correctly. If that's not possible, then a refund can be asked for. So the order is you first must allow the person time to fix their mistake before demanding your money back. But what happens if you don't notice the problem immediately? Maybe you bought something, you put it down somewhere, and you forgot about it for a while. Then you open the package and realize that something is broken. First thing you should do is always photograph the evidence. You should make sure that you have evidence of what has happened. The second step is to contact the person who sold it to you. Make sure that they are aware of the problem. And if appropriate, an extended refund period may be given. If it had been 3 years since you purchased the item and you only just noticed the problem, an extended refund period may not apply. However, it's been a shorter period of time, maybe a couple of months, this may apply to you. If you change your mind about something, so say you went into the hairdresser and asked for a trim and you ended up with a nice trim, but you actually wanted the blue mohawk, you have no right to a refund. However, most stores offer a 14-day cooling off period, meaning there are 14 days in which you can decide to exchange an item for something else. More often than not, it's store credit, or it might be a similar item. Stores that have sales, though, often don't offer this policy because the point of a sale is to get rid of the item, not to have it back on their shelves. We are now going to talk about a fair trial. So if you have the misfortune of being accused of a crime, you will go to court. And so we're going to talk about how that works in the UK in the concept of a jury trial. So we've got some key terms here. First up is the defendant. The defendant is the person who is being accused. So maybe it's you. Maybe you've been accused of doing something. You would be the defendant. You would have a team of barristers or lawyers who would be your defense team. They're the ones who are going to try and prove that you are innocent. The prosecution is another team of barristers or lawyers whose job it is to prove that you are guilty. The whole process of proving guilt or innocence is called a trial. And there are two different groups that are involved in deciding guilt. There is the jury, who is a selection of everyday people who decide whether the person is innocent or guilty. And the judge. The judge is responsible for making sure that everything goes according to plan and that it is legal. So any discussions about the process of the trial or deciding punishment comes down to the judge. So a trial by jury is a trial by your peers, meaning it is a selection of people from the community that have been selected for jury duty. Every adult has the opportunity to be selected for jury duty, and they will receive a letter in the mail saying they've been assigned jury duty and they must report to the court. All jurors swear an oath of conduct. So this means that they are going to behave in a legal and fair manner. The jurors cannot be connected to the defendant or anyone in the defendant's family, or even be a friend of a close friend. So say your best friend's mum got assigned jury duty and it happened to be a case where you are the defendant. She will not be able to be on that jury because she has a connection to you. So if you are selected for jury duty and you realize that you know the defendant, you must declare it. It's fine. You won't get in trouble for it. You just won't be selected to be on the jury. If you have the misfortune of being accused of a crime, you are entitled to legal representation and maybe legal aid. So legal aid is when you cannot afford a lawyer yourself, and so a lawyer will be provided for you for free or at a reduced cost. And that can come through a couple of different ways. It can come through via a charity, or there are some legal organizations, so companies of lawyers, will provide reduced fee representation, as in they will provide their services for a much lower cost for people who can't afford it. The concept of a fair trial all comes down to innocent until proven guilty. So what that means is everyone must assume that the person who is being accused did not do the crime until the prosecution can prove that you did. So innocent until proven guilty means you must assume the person has not done the crime until the evidence is presented that proves that they did. In a fair trial, your defense team's job is to gather the evidence in your favor. Their job is to prove that you were innocent. So they'll point out any weak points in the prosecution's case and provide evidence that proves that you are innocent. If you are stopped by the police, you have rights. For example, if you are arrested and questioned, you must be arrested with reasonable evidence, as in there must be something that links you to this crime. You have the right to legal representation before being questioned or giving any kind of statement. If you are stopped by the police, they must identify themselves immediately, prove that they are police. They must tell you the reason for you being stopped and searched and make a record of it. These three things are required legally for a stop and search to be legal. They can ask you to remove a coat, jacket, or gloves. However, you are entitled to privacy. Privacy is a right. So for example, they may take you into a private room in order to do this. They may erect a tent. If these procedures are not followed, if they do not provide identification, if they do not record it, and if they do not tell you the reason for the stop and search, then it is not legal, and you can consider making complaints and further legal action around that event. Your worksheet consists of 3 different scenarios. First one is about consumer rights. Second one is about the fair trial and jury service. And the third is about stop and search. Bye.